Nobody's worried yet. Your mother tells relatives you're taking a short break before the next thing. It sounds true because it still is. You sleep in. Nobody comments on it. There's almost a lightness to the house, a shared, unspoken agreement that this is temporary, that the break has an expiry date everyone can feel, but nobody's named. Any updates? Arrives at the dinner table for the first time, asked lightly, between passing dishes, the way you'd ask about the weather. You give an honest, easy answer. An interview coming up, an application sent. Everyone nods. Dinner continues. You don't yet notice that this question is going to be asked at every single meal, forever, until it isn't. And that the day it stops being asked will feel worse than the asking ever did. Your cousin gets a promotion. It comes up at a family call you weren't part of, and by the time you hear about it secondhand, it's already been placed next to your situation, unprompted, by someone drawing a comparison nobody asked them to draw. Nobody says your name in the same sentence. They don't have to. The silence after the cousin's good news does the work. You wake up at 11. Your father leaves for work at 8. For a while, this didn't mean anything. Different schedules, that's all. Now it means something. You can feel the house cataloging your hours. What time you wake, how long you're on your phone, whether you've left your room before noon. Nobody said anything about it directly. You've just started closing your door earlier and opening it later, as if that changes what's being counted. Relatives start helping. A forwarded job, posting arrives on WhatsApp, followed a day later by another, then a third. None of them close to what you're qualified for. All of them sent with the same brief, well-meaning message. Saw this, thought of you. Someone offers to put in a word with a company you've never mentioned wanting to work at. You say thank you. You mean it, mostly. Each message is also, quietly, a reminder that the gap is now visible enough for people 2 family branches removed to feel entitled to fix it. The word gets used, finally, out loud, by someone who isn't your parents, because your parents have spent a year very deliberately not saying it, using every softer synonym available to them instead. The distant relative doesn't mean it as an attack. That's almost the worst part. It's just a fact to her, stated the way you'd confirm someone's job title. Your mother's face changes when she hears it. Not anger, something closer to being caught. Small tasks start becoming your job, gently, without anyone framing it as a demotion. Grocery runs, picking up a sibling from tuition, sitting with a grandparent during the day. Nobody calls this anything. It just becomes assumed, the way water finds the lowest point in a room. You're home, so you're available. So you become the house's default answer to every small logistical gap. You don't mind the tasks themselves. You mind what they quietly confirm. That your time is now considered the least valuable resource in the house, available to be spent on anything that doesn't require an appointment. A family wedding arrives. The first real test of how you answer the question in front of a crowd instead of just your parents. So what are you doing these days? Lands from someone holding a plate of food, genuinely curious, no malice in it at all, which somehow makes it harder to deflect than if they'd meant it unkindly. You've prepared an answer. It comes out smoothly. You've clearly practiced it, possibly in the mirror, possibly in the car on the way here. Nobody at the wedding notices how rehearsed it is. You notice. That's the part that stays with you on the drive home. The house has fully adjusted. Nobody asks any updates anymore. Not because it's resolved, but because the question stopped producing anything new a long time ago. And the house doesn't waste effort on questions that don't move. Your unemployment isn't news, it's weather. Something the household has learned to plan around. The way you'd plan around a leaky tap you've decided isn't worth fixing yet. You've started to notice you feel two things at once, in roughly equal measure. Relief that nobody's watching us closely anymore, and a colder kind of loneliness in exactly that same fact. Your cousin, the one whose promotion started the comparisons back at month 5, corners you at a family gathering, not to compare, but because he needs someone to say something to. He's been at the same company for 6 years, hates it specifically and completely, and hasn't applied anywhere else once in that entire time, because the fear of explaining a resignation to the same family is worse than staying somewhere that's quietly wearing him down. At least nobody asks me anything, he says, meaning it as a kind of envy, which lands strangely, because you'd have traded positions with him without a second thought a year ago. Now you're not so sure the trade would have been what you thought it was. The house was never really measuring your employment status. It was measuring how closely you matched a shape it had already decided a son or daughter your age should take. Employed, contributing, accounted for. Your cousin fit that shape on paper and is quietly suffocating inside it. You don't fit it and have, in some strange way, more room to breathe than he does, even while carrying a weight he doesn't have to. Neither of you got the better deal. You just got different weights, both handed out by the same house, using the same unspoken rule book, calibrated to look like concern. It's been 2 years. Nobody asks anymore. You've started to wonder whether the house was ever really keeping track of your job, or just of how much space you were allowed to take up while it waited for you to become useful to it again.